Hello and welcome everybody to Man's Model Moments and this quick little pop-up stream. I hadn't planned this. This is literally a pop-up because of the announcement today from Airfix. Now obviously we were all expecting an announcement from Airfix at Telford. And I think, I'm not sure, because I'd have to go and check. Of course, I haven't done that. But I think this is the first time they've basically said what they're announcing without saying what they're announcing. But let me just show you on the screen. This is what I got this morning. This was actually a trade one that led through to this. This is the YouTube link, obviously. Something is coming. New tool, 1/24th scale. So I don't think they've ever done that before, where they've said, okay, we're releasing a new tool. It's going to be announced tomorrow, which is the day before Telford. Obviously, it's when all the trade is set up and stuff. It's going to be a 1/24 scale tool. They've hinted at stuff before, but I don't think they've ever, 2 days before, said we're going to release a new tool. And it's going to be in this scale. So I think that's pretty cool, right? And I also really like the way that in the email announcement that they made, they said, no, it's not another Spitfire. So they recognised the kind of feedback from community about like that the last time they did this announcement, and it turned out to be the Flying Dray, which is obviously their existing kit with some extra bits in, and people were like, oh, it's not another Spitfire, and I thought it was an overhyped release, whereas I don't think this is. I think this is really cool, and I'm really looking forward to what it might be. So 3 streams are running at the moment, is it? Oh, okay. I've no idea. I haven't done this to compete with anybody or anything like that. I literally just thought, well, I've got a premiere tonight, obviously on the laser cutter, which has been pending for a while, and so I thought, well, I'll follow that up. Literally this afternoon when the thing came in, I thought I might as well just throw on the stream straight after, and then people could just transition from one to the other, have a little bit of speculation, and then go on with our evenings. So John Christmas. So I think what I'm going to do is let's start a poll. So what do you think the release will be? Let's have a few options. So first of all, the first thing I thought of was a BF109, probably E, to replace their old BF109 24 scale E. Then I thought that's not very in keeping with what Airfix has been doing recently. They've done a lot of British stuff, and their 1/24th releases all kind of have some sort of British connection. So I thought, well, actually, a Hurricane would go well, and I'll come back to that. So we'll put in the Hurricane. I think we can rule out things like the Tornado. I will put the Lightning in. So I'll put the BAC stroke EE Lightning. I think that is unlikely for a few reasons. But I'll put that in as an option. And then let's say I think the other one that's been bandied about is a P47 Thunderbolt. So let's have a little poll with those 4 options, and we'll see what you guys think is most likely from those options. I like the way that somebody voted, and it was like 100% it's going to be a Lightning. So the reason I don't think it's going to be a Lightning is because a 1/24 scale Lightning would be huge, right? It would be awesome, right? But the 48 scale Lightning is about yay big. So it would be twice as long as that. That's a big chunk of plastic, which means the price would also be a big chunk of change, which is fine, right? But what is the market for that? You know, Airfix are quite savvy about trying to assess what the market is. And we're talking about principally the home market, the British market, because that I think is their core market. And the US at the moment is a bit of a question mark, right? They've just closed their distribution center there. So they're not doing direct, they're going through a distributor, which is always more problematic. There's a tariff situation, etc. Europe is a weaker market for Airfix, so I think they're looking at the home market to fund this. And presumably, fingers crossed, this will be produced in the UK. So I don't think a Lightning is in there. Now, I think a fighter, a World War II fighter size subject is far more likely. The 109 I would love. I'm veering away from that. That was my first, I guess it's my own internal, or I'd like it to be, right? But the Hurricane, I think, is the most likely. Now, let's just take Airfix do love to give clues and little snippets and Easter eggs to try and keep people guessing, right? So let me go to the other screen. So I think if you look at this image, okay, it's a thunderstorm, right? It's lightning striking, which I think has got the lightning people. Okay, so I think there is probably that's been chosen, right? Now, it's a lightning storm. You could think lightning. I think also that's where thunderbolts came from, because, you know, lightning, thunderbolt, all that kind of stuff. The thing is, it's a storm, right? And if you think most British fighters over the years have been named some sort of extreme weather event, right? From the Hurricane, got the whirlwind, you have the current typhoon, tempest, tornado. You know, there's lots of storms. There are ones that go outside of that. Obviously, the Spitfire, famously. Although Spitfire, you know, it is the same sort of. I mean, it was named after, I can't remember whose daughter, but she was a little Spitfire, which meant, you know, like a really feisty sort of individual. Which kind of goes with that sort of turbulent sort of storm kind of thing. So I think it's probably going to be, and it will go more with the Airfix kind of theming thing, right? It being British. So Craig, I don't think it's Mosquito. I don't think it's a retooled Mosquito. I think if they're going to do a new tool, it'll be a new tool. They did the Mosquito not that long ago. I don't think they would, to be honest, I don't think they would get the authorization for the funding from Hornby to do that. And Guy Wright, why a plane? So 1/24 scale aircraft have been the big statement pieces for Airfix. If this was a 1/24 scale, say, vehicle, like car, I think that would feel vastly underwhelming, right? And it's not, I can't think of the last time Airfix have done a 1/24 scale. They've done 1/32 scale cars. It's what they do in or what they used to do in 1/32 scale. But I can't think of the last time they did a 1/24 scale vehicle. So I don't think, and it's not a common scale for things like armor. So I think it is going to be an aircraft. That's, again, all speculation. If please, you guys put your suggestions in the comments as well, because I'd love to hear, you know, better ideas or alternative ideas. I think that's part of the fun of this, right? There's no reason for this for this pop-up stream, other than it is fun to speculate. It is fun to possibly guess it right. 10 o'clock tomorrow, we will know. So this is pre-Telford. I think it's great, though. I think it's, you see, to me, this is good marketing, right? It's not a super hype for something that is then potentially going to kind of go down a bit. They've planned this well, I think. They haven't left it to Telford, so there will be a buzz at Telford because people will already know what it is, and they'll be looking. This will drive people to the Airfix stand, right? Because they'll have either the built-up aircraft, most likely, or the frames or whatever. People will go and look at it. So it's kind of, this is what I think good marketing looks like, for sure. Scale model apprentice, I would love a 1/24 scale P38. I just think it's too big. I think the problem is when you go to 1/24 scale, and you get bigger, the bigger you get, the more expensive you get, both in terms of the tooling and then the price you have to pass on to the customer. And if you look at the current market, I don't think it's going to sustain a £200 1/24 scale kit, which I think is what a P38 or Mosquito would currently come out at. Not maybe shy of £200, but not very much, right? It's a lot. It's a big plastic lot of stuff. Westland Wessex. Okay, they've done the 72nd scale. I think they may do a 48 scale. I think a 24th is probably asking a bit much. Again, for the same reasons, right? You're limiting your market. And this is why I think it will be a single-engined fighter type size thing, because that makes it accessible to people who aren't necessarily just big fans of the aircraft, right? There will be people that would buy a P38 Lightning in 1/24 scale no matter the cost. It's just there aren't that many of that, and probably not enough just to justify the tooling costs, right? So you've got to remember to Airfix, or rather to Hornby, who give Airfix the money to be able to do these things, it has to have a plan behind it, and the plan is for profitability. So you've got to think of it with both your heart, your modelling heart, and your business head, right? What is feasible? What would make Airfix the money? Let me just check. I've not missed any comments. And welcome everybody. I should have said, I'm not going to read out everybody's name today. This is just a quick pop-up stream. I don't want to spend too much time going through that, but I really appreciate people coming on and putting in your old two pennyth. So Craig, my money is on a retooled Mosquito. You see, they have specifically called it out as a new tool, and I think if they incorporated pieces of the old tool, I don't think they would, by their own rules. I don't think so. To me, Dale is pretty straight shooting, right? I think if he was going to put his name to something, if you like, the Airfix name to something, he would want to do it quote unquote properly. Like he said before, he doesn't want to release the like the TSR2 and stuff if they have those molds where do they go, right? Because they're not worthy of being in a red Airfix box. He takes real pride in that red Airfix box and what goes in it, and yet they're not vintage classics, so they're in this kind of middle ground, which makes them awkward, right? Which I understand, but I think, for me, I could be completely wrong, right? And if they did do a new tooled Mosquito, again, that'd be great. But again, I think the reason they haven't re-released it, because if they re-released it, they could charge a lot of money and people would buy it, and that's zero cost to them, or other than a new set of decals and stuff, which does have cost, but compared to tooling a completely new aircraft, insignificant, right? So for minimal amounts of effort, they could actually get a big return. I think they go for that 100% of the time. But as Guy Wilson has pointed out, and this was actually pointed out in our private Discord, the YouTube private Discord bit, not something you guys will see, by James Too Bold to Go Modelling. This is indeed the 90th anniversary of the Hurricane's first flight today, on the 6th, when this was announced. So you've got a storm, a hurricane, if you like. You have the right sort of size aircraft. It's British. It did a huge amount of work in the Battle of Britain. It shot down more bombers. You know, the Spitfire was an interceptor. It was the Glory Boy because it went and fought fighters, and that was purely to get them away from the bombers so the Hurricanes could come in and shoot them down. That was a big part of the, you know, people say, oh, the Spitfire got all the glory, or the Hurricane was... They worked hand in hand, right? One couldn't have done the full job of the other. We didn't have enough Spitfires, and the Hurricane was a little bit behind in terms of technology. So the two together work beautifully. So it's the right size, it's British, it's a very British, iconic subject. So I think all of the things are starting to line up. For me, I think personally, the Hurricane is the one to go for. And it looks like from the poll, 50% of you agree with me, which at the moment is a majority because we've got a bit of a split for the others. English Electric Lightning is next with 19%, 109 17, and the Thunderbolt trailing at 13%, which I actually think is, for me, if it wasn't going to be a Hurricane, I think the Thunderbolt is probably the most likely next contender. But the Thunderbolt itself is a big fight. It's a beefy girl. She was very resistant to damage. A lot of pilots liked it because it was big and roomy inside. And it could take a hell of a lot of punishment before it gave in, because it had a big radial engine, a big structure, it was very robust. So, Travis, if your prayers to the old gods come true, and it is a brand new 1/24 scale new tooled ME262, I will start worshipping those gods. I have a 1/32 scale trumpeter ME262, which is lovely, but 24 scale one would be chef's kiss. Damien, better not be another Spitfire. Seriously, no. I think it's most definitely not. Some were thinking it's going to be an F-35 scale models, World War II scale models. Dave, that's not a bad shout. But again, isn't everybody sick of the F-35? To me, I have an excellent 48 scale set of renditions of both the A, B, and C. Because then again, there are 3 versions of that, and it's not easy to go between any of them, to be honest. They're all slightly different airframes. So I think the F-35, for me, I don't think it quite fits. Because that will be quite big. I think Teleri also do a 1/32 scale F-35. Meng do a nice 1/48 scale. There's a lot of 72nd scale ones. I've done videos on those. I think maybe we're just a bit F-35'd out. I don't think there's an appetite for going for one which is even bigger, you know. But interesting. In the same way, Damien says if it's not a tornado, then they will have truly shot themselves in the foot. I will bet all the money I'm taking with me to Telford, it's not a 1/24 scale tornado. And I think if it is, it would take all the money I'm taking to Telford to buy it, because man, that thing would be huge. And I think it's the same problem, right? How many people would pay £200 or more on buying a 1/24 scale tornado? And there are those of you out there that will say, absolutely, I would. But it isn't everybody. And I think in terms of percentages, it's not many, right? And if they were, you know, say it's 5% of the modelling population, which I think is way high, how many of that 5% have the money to buy that in the next month or before Christmas? I think that's a small number. I think that would be something you'd need to save up for heavily. Whereas I think something around that £95 mark that they've, £95, £100, especially at a big show with Christmas coming up, that is something that people could splurge on. I think more than that starts to create some difficulties. And again, if you halve your target market, say you're paying £130 and you halve the market from 100, you've lost money overall, right? It's better to sell more product at a slightly lower price than sell a half or quarter of that many at 50% or 200% increase or whatever. Let me see. I'm a little bit behind on comments, so please excuse me for that while I just try and catch up. Steve's Gaming says maybe it will be a Liberator, as in the deep space vessel, DS7. If it's that, again, you would be. I would gladly give you all the money that I'm taking to Telford. Bear in mind, right? And they were talking about the Liberator from Blake 7, the Starship. Bear in mind the studio model for that was about 3 feet, about a metre or so long. I've seen it. It's been at Telford before. It's huge. It's looking a bit ropey now, but and that I think is like something like 1/1000th scale. So a 1/24 scale would be like bigger than the halls at Telford. Craig, you meant to say new tooled. I don't see them, tooling something that they've tooled so recently. And by so recently, I mean like in the last 15 years, or since Hornby acquisition, let's say. I just don't think, because they've got the figures from their return on investment, right? I don't think it's big enough for them to justify that. Scale Model Apprentice says, I'd like a Hurricane, but please give us an early Mark 1 with a 2-blade prop. You see, the other thing with the Hurricane is, of course, there's quite a few different versions that they could do, right? From the same set of frames, right? Now, will it be an early one? That's a good question, right? Because a Mark 1, so with the Mark II and the different wing, then you started introducing different weapon options. So, for instance, if they did a 2, then you can have the 2C, obviously with the 4 Hispano. You could have the 2D with the 2 Bofors guns underneath, with not much in the way of change. You could do the C Hurricane, like the Revell one that I looked at last night. The early one doesn't give you as many future options, I guess. But I don't know, because that is the kind of iconic Battle of Britain one. So I think that's an interesting question. That is. And yeah, the Thunderbolt is huge. It's actually a 1/24 scale Queen Elizabeth sailing the lovely British coasts. I mean, it would actually be able to sail at 1/24 scale. Roy says, gutted, just bought the 1/24 scale Trumpeter Hurricane Trop. They will still get my money. Now, that is the one thing that made me hesitate about the Hurricane, is that Trumpeter have done quite a few, I've just talked about different variations. Trumpeter's done a lot of them in 1/24 scale, and they're recent, and apparently they're very good, because I looked at some of the feedback from them, and apparently they're nice kits. So that puts them, one, a Trumpeter has been out there for a while doing that, so it's soaked up a lot of that potential market. So that kind of got me thinking, I don't know. But then you don't know when this was planned originally, right? So those could have come out in the development time. Plus, you've got to think it's the Airfix home market. So how many people will buy an Airfix 124 scale Hurricane compared to how many will buy a Trumpeter 124 scale Hurricane? And I think if I was to, throw a figure in the air, I would say it's 3-1, right? That would be my gut feel, is like at least 3 times as many people would buy an Airfix Hurricane as a Trumpeter one, because it's seen as Airfix is a more known quantity for people. I think, let's say of a certain age that are likely to buy a Hurricane, for instance, have the money to. So there's a bit of home team loyalty in that, I feel, and obviously Airfix, the recent stuff, we know they're going to go and do it right. We know that they'll go and scan actual Hurricanes because they've got good access to them, because again there's more surviving here than anywhere else in the world. The Chinese probably wouldn't have been able to do that. So there's all those kind of factors playing into it. So I think, as you've sort of said, yes, you've got a Trumpeter one, but you'd still buy an Airfix one. And I think that's probably true for most British modelers who would be interested in a 124 scale Hurricane. And I think people who see an Airfix 124 scale Hurricane in the shop compared to a Trumpeter one, I think they'll buy the Airfix one, because let's say a layperson modeler, somebody who likes the Hurricane, doesn't really know about modelling, but they've heard of Airfix and they see an Airfix one, they're more likely to buy that. I've never heard of Trumpeter, but I've heard of Airfix, so I'll do that because it's a big investment. So I don't think it's a complete rule out, but it did make me pause and think maybe the 109 is more likely. Because if you look at the 109, Trumpeter don't do a 124 scale 109E. They do a G and a K. Hobby Boss, which is the same company, let's face it, do an E, but they only do one. And I don't know how old it is or how accurate it is. So for me, that's potentially more of a market. We know the 109 is the most successful tool, if you like, in subject in terms of reproduction and modelers buying it. So it's kind of almost a safer bet money-wise. But nothing about the marketing suggests to me that it's a 109. So there is that. Brian says, Focke-Wulf 190 question mark. God, I'd love that. The Butcher Bird is one of my favourite World War II aircraft, and it comes in a staggering variety. It was used on pretty much every front. A lot of evolution, and it just looks cool, brutal kind of looking fighter. But again, I just don't see anything that points towards it, Let me have a little scroll back down. Casey, welcome. I'd like to have a place at home to put 200 gold GBP worth of 124 scale tornado. Yeah, it would be space sapping, I think is the word or phrase. Gloucester Meteor to outdo Revell. It's too big. Again, it's, especially if you look at how big the Meteor was, it was a big slabby aircraft. It was, again, great chunks of plastic. It would be, huge. Bear in mind that 1/32 scale, because I did the measurements when Revell announced the price. It's about the same size as a 124 scale Spitfire, the 1/32 scale Meteor. So a 124 scale Meteor, I mean, you're looking at, actually I don't know if it's slightly larger than the Mosquito. Might be more bulky. It's about the same. So So Damien, we know it's not going to be 1/72nd scale because they've said it's 1/24th. So 1/24th Corsair, I don't see it. You know, again, I think if it came out, people would buy it, I'm sure. But again, the Corsair is a big fighter. It's not as chunky as the P-47, but it's got big wings, those big gull wings. It could look great in 1/24 scale if they did all the mechanisms and things. But does anybody wish for a P-40? I don't think so. I think the P-40 is it's one of those aircraft that I think is quite overlooked in a lot of ways. I like the P-40. It has a lot of different iterations as well. If you go through the different marks of the P-40 and where it was used, again, it was used in Indonesia, it was used in the Middle East. It was, you know, it was a very versatile aircraft. It didn't quite have the performance that we needed, I guess, but it did really good work, and it's quite a handsome-looking aircraft. But I don't think it's got that pull. I think for a 1/24 scale aircraft, you have to have kind of a pull, you know, something that is going to make it sell, because it's a big thing, right? It's an investment piece. It's something that you really want to have to do. Most people could only have, I would guess, one subject of that size in their homes. So I'm very lucky that I've got a shop where I can display a lot of stuff, and I couldn't have that many of that sort of size in the shop, but they do go really well in the shop because models always look smaller on display, and 24 scale is a great display scale. It's a nice balance between how big it is and how big it looks on display, and all the detail and everything. But the P-40, again, I don't see anything leaning towards that, and my gut feel is commercially it's not up there. Sorry, the chat keeps jumping a little bit, so please excuse me if I hesitate a little bit. Scale Model Apprentice, I still find it interesting that the BF-109 is the most popular aircraft to model. I've never built one. I actually just bought my first one, and it's an Avia S199. Again, talking about that pull, the 109 it's like doing the bad guy from a movie, right? It's like Darth Vader or Stormtrooper. It has that kind of, or TIE Fighter. You know, a 109 was like the Spitfire was the poster boy for the British, the Battle of Britain, and all that. The 109 was kind of the poster boy for the Nazis, right? Which gives it a sort of like, you know, the evil chic kind of feel. You know, I want to do not the protagonist, I want to do the antagonist, what we fought against. And you see that again, a lot of US modelers will model Japanese aircraft because they were the enemy. I was really interested in Soviet aircraft growing up because I grew up in the West in the Cold War, and the Soviets were an unknown entity. They were portrayed as the enemy, and you know, their tech was unknown to us, like the Foxbat and all the mystery surrounding that. Before one defected it, we found out it was a flying brick. You know, so there is an appeal, is what I'm saying in that, and it's a very distinctive looking aircraft. Plus, you have to put in the German element to any World War II stuff, and it's not because people are Nazis or fascists or anything like that. The Germans did some really good camouflage schemes, and that's a huge thing, right? You can do a 109, a 109E, and you have a vast array of different camouflage. They're not just splinter schemes. You know, there's winter patterns over them, there's unusual squadron markings, especially early in the war. There's some really bizarre stuff. There was overspray, as people found, you know, the Stark splinter didn't work that well where they were. All kinds of things. So the 109 has a lot of things going in its favour for that, and I think that's one of the reasons it's popular. What else do we have? Is it? It's a 1/24 scale weather balloon. Now they would need a 1/24 scale F-22 Raptor then to go up against it. They could do it as a dogfight double set. Scam Model Apprentice says they need to do another run of the F6F. Some schemes just fix the false economy around it. Yeah, I don't disagree, actually. I think they should. To me, the big scale, the 124 scale ones, are the sorts of things that they should keep in the warehouse. I don't want to get diverted into sort of the Hornby and business kind of approach behind it, because they are very much a company that likes to do a production run, and they like to clear that out in a certain amount of time. So they clear the warehouse space for all the stuff coming in, rather than saying, okay, like the F6F, for instance, I'm going to make this many, and they're on the shelves, and they're available all the time. You know, it's a marketing tactic, enforced scarcity, and it's not one I particularly enjoy. Dutch Dave says, my guts say BAC Lightning, and if you're right, I'll be surprised but appreciative. If it's a 124 scale BAC Lightning, I mean, I'll do it on the channel for sure. In fact, I think I can probably say whatever they release, I'll feature it on the channel. A new tooled 124 scale kit, yeah, I'm all for that. So, you know, people think that I have Airfix, as I've refuted many times. I don't, and I think this is peak Airfix, and I'm really looking forward to what that announcement will be in let's see, 13 hours time. So and yes, you're right, Travis, you could build 100 109s and they would all be different, or they could all be different. I mean, literally, I mean, the scale of production in World War II is insane. When you think now, you know, 1,000 aircraft of one type is a lot. I mean, then there were, you know, 10,000 aircraft was, yeah, that's quite a lot, but not the most. So, Psych, a 124 scale space shuttle orbiter. Well, I tell you what, it needs to have more detail than the 144 scale one that that they've re-released, because that's not a good kit. Okay, so 56% the poll is on at the moment for the Hurricane. So, given that we have, as a democratic stream, the majority have decided that it's the Hurricane, and that is, by the way, a greater majority than Brexit. Just saying. Don't want to get political, but just saying. Let's have another poll then. I think I need to stop this one before I can do another one. Okay, end that poll. There we go. There were the final votes, which didn't change much actually. Through after the first, you know, the initial person got in there, 100% of English Electric Lightning, which I love that enthusiasm. So let's put this one. If Airfix release a 1/24th scale new tool, Hurricane, will you be buying it? Simple yes or no. There we go. Let's see how that one does. Sophie, how about you make a tray of 1-to-1 scale dark chocolate muffins? As long as I don't have to eat them. I mean, I love chocolate muffins, right? I love chocolate, I love muffins, I love them together. Dark chocolate just gives me a headache. I don't know what it is. If I eat too much dark chocolate, and by too much I mean like anything more than half a square, gives me fierce headache. Which is a shame because I love it. So, yeah, a scale model of one would probably be about right. Yeah, it would keep me out of temptation. Yeah, I think a lot of people would, Aries Styring, love an F4U Corsair in 124 scale. I mean, there are some very good Corsair kits. Tamiya makes some very good Corsair kits, you know, the 32nd and 48 scale, and 72nd, in fact, all very nice. So, and again, thinking about Airfix, again, whenever I think about this, I always try to think of my modelling sort of knowledge, if you want to put it, or experience maybe is a better word, and then my business head is like, right, okay, does this make sense in the context of Airfix as a business, where it is now, the kinds of provenance it's got in terms of recent releases, which, again, very much focused on the British market rather than the European or the American. If Airfix had a US subsidiary, an active US subsidiary, we know they don't, but if they did, and this was an announcement from them, my answer would be completely different. It certainly wouldn't be a Hurricane, because I think most American modelers don't give a damn about the Hurricane. You know, they recognise the Spitfire. The Hurricane is, you know, not really there. There, I would probably. It's a difficult one, actually. That Mustang is an obvious one, but the Mustang is quite well represented. I don't know how well represented it is in 1/24 scale, though. Airfix, of course, did re-release the Vintage Classic one, but and then P47 and Corsair would be my next go-to. If they did this announcement, as they've done, you know, with the lightning storm and everything, I would go 60%, maybe 70%, let's say 2/3, 66.6% recurring Thunderbolt, 33.3% recurring P38. But this isn't an American announcement, and it's Airfix are, I think, very focused on home market. And again, if this is a UK produced product, that adds to it. So, you know. Aries says, I agree, but I'm Canadian. We flew everything. Fair enough. Fair enough. Bobby says, would love a Beaufighter, but I don't think that will ever happen. No, again, I think the Beaufighter has the same problem that the Mosquito has, right? It's too big. It's too damn big. It's a beautiful aircraft. I love the Beaufighter. It's and the Tamiya, if you haven't done the Tamiya 148 scale Beaufighter, it's a very reasonably priced kit, because it's a mid-90s kit, I think 1996 or so. It was first produced, and it's lovely. And I think it's under 20 quid. It's a fair size in 48 scale, and it's lovely. And you can super detail it. It's got quite a lot of interior anyway, which you can't see because the Beaufighter's internal viewing is terrible. A Bolton Paul Defiant. I think I can say with hand on heart, it's not going to be a Bolton Paul Defiant. They do have the 148 scale one being re-released this year, which is good, because I missed it the first time round. I've got that on pre-order, actually. Or I had it on pre-order. I don't know if I have anymore. Or maybe I held off on the pre-order. I can't remember. The whole Airfix supply thing is a little bit touch and go at the moment, whether I do or don't. But Paul Dye is currently building the 148 scale Tamiya Beaufighter. Yeah, wingspan is about 14 inches. Yeah, which is 48 scale. That's that's not bad. And yeah, it's a lovely kit. So yeah, Bolton Paul Defiant. No, I mean, that was a terrible aircraft as well. Who the idea of the turret fighter is one of those things that seems like a good idea on paper, right? 360-degree firepower, you know, shoot things down from any angle. Terrible in practice, absolutely terrible. Which is a shame. I think if you hadn't got that bloody great turret on the back, it's not a bad looking aircraft, you know. And probably the performance of it would be pretty good as well. But lugging around, you know, that, well, 4 Brownings and all that greenhousery, not a great idea. Oh, Casey has this 1/24 scale. Let me have a look at the Discord, see what I can pick up there. From the Airfix community on Reddit. Huh. Let's show people that then. So apparently, I mean, Reddit, I believe about as much on Reddit as I do on conspiracy theory websites. I mean, it's a very convincing mock-up if this isn't real, but then it's very easy to make very convincing mock-ups. Yeah, I mean, okay, there are 2 things for me on this. One, if this is real, I'm all for it. A 24 scale 109G is great. You know, I'll be buying that for sure. Secondly, is it though? Something about it just looks like it's been mocked up, very cleverly. But yeah. The other thing is, if this is real, right? Let me just materialize back in. If it is true, somebody's leaked that, right? Now, I can guarantee it's not a small trader because we haven't been informed. We were told there'll be a new, exactly the same information that you have. Right? So the link I showed you, the YouTube video, it was exactly the same. The general release, because I got an Airfix one in my normal email and the Airfix, the Hornby trade one in my other email, and they're the same thing. So this would be a trader that's going to be at Telford, which has, you know, been allowed to have pre-stock. So it's Jadlam or Wonderland, I'm guessing. I think those are probably the only 2 traders big enough to have been given that privilege, because Hornby don't run an even keel for support of their traders. Jadlam, Wonderland, the big guys come first, and everybody else goes to hell. Sorry, guys, that's just the way Hornby works. So they would have had to have leaked it, which just goes. So if it is true, and I don't really think it is, but that would mean one of them leaked it, and sort of proves my point of how 2-tier systems just don't work. So yeah, I mean, £100 is the right price. The original Spitfire was $94.99 in 2023, in December 2023, 2 years ago. And the, what was it, 2022? December 2022? Yeah. What was it, the 8, Mark 8 was 99.99. It's not going to be any different for a 109. So taking this absolutely on face value, you know, which is one of the reasons it looks convincing, right? I don't really think it's true, but we'll see tomorrow. Probably not a Blackburn anything, to be honest, Darcy. Oh, somebody's saying the re-released Arado 196 is in a flip-top box and a lovely kit. So I have the original AR 196, but the single float version, because they did 2 versions of the 196. They did one with 2 floats and one with a single float. Both were designed for use on ships as their spotter aircraft, and I went for the slightly more unusual because they settled on the twin float design. Even though it was a bit harder on the airframe, the single one was less stable on the water, so I went for the less stable one. The more interesting one. Sully's just done a video on the twin float one. He's done a really nice build of it. Adam says, not going to lie, I hope it is true now, because it would be funny looking at Jadman like, well, I wonder who it was. Yeah. And 100% I will not buy it from Jadlam. Might be worth a quick straw poll. That's a good one, actually. So 52% of you have said you would buy a Hurricane if it was a Hurricane. So a good chunk of us. Let's have a final poll. Is the Reddit reveal, let's call it, real? What do we think, guys and girls? Is it real? Is it fake? Okay, people's guts are reacting with nope. The thing is, okay, so let's take it as a fake, right? And there's a load of buzz around this, and it's just like, oh, fantastic, that would be great, blah blah blah. That gives Airfix a whole load of market intelligence, right? Because it means, okay, if they get overwhelming positive response, that means, okay, we could release a 124 scale 109G and people would probably buy it. So, you know, maybe it's Airfix. Yeah, throw that one out. I mean, stranger things have happened. I don't think it's really Airfix's style. You know, if they were a Russian company, then yeah, you'd say absolutely disinformation is their game. But for Airfix, not so much. They're more about big secret announcements and trying to build up hype. Yeah, I mean that would actually be. It's a tactic, right? It's a marketing tactic. To sneak, not sneak, leak. That's what I knew it rhymed, but to leak information about something and judge the reaction on it, and then adjust. Usually, it's of a product. Say they've done a 109, right, and they've got most of the design work done, and they're like, we're not sure that this is the right model. Say they were doing the F, and it's just like, right, okay, why don't we say we're going to release the G and see what people's reaction to it is, or the E. Say they were doing the E, and people are like, oh no, we want a Battle of Britain, blah blah blah. It's like, we know we're on the right track. Carry on with the E. Whereas if there's really loads of positive reaction to the G, then they're just like, right, okay, what design work do we need to do to make a G in future because we know that's viable. So you can get a lot of information from, you know, fake leaks. I mean, it would, that G, I'm just saying now, a G5 stroke G6, and again, if this is fake, someone's put a lot of thought and time into this, and I appreciate that. So whoever, if it turns out to be fake, kudos, that, you know, nicely done. A G5 G6 would go with a Mark 9 because the F was contemporaneous with the Mark 9, and then when we got into the G where they started screwing it up, really adding too many guns, you know, those big blisters in the front of the cowling to accommodate the extra ammunition for those 151s, and you know, screwing up some of the aerodynamics. And then the G10, I think it was, where they got the more streamlined fairings, got some of that back. It happened with some of the later Spitfires as well, where they got heavier. The engines got more powerful, but the aircraft got heavier, so it didn't actually increase the overall performance. So a bit faster, but they weren't necessarily as good a dogfighter. So there we go. Yeah, maybe we were too close on the Hurricane. They're leaking this to throw us off. It's yeah, unless they're working, like watching this stream and working extremely fast in the background. I wish I had that influence, but I don't. I'd be deluding myself if I thought that. But you definitely could get a dogfight double, couldn't you, with G6 and a 109. Spitfire Mark 9, which would be awesome, right? Especially, I want to see the stand for that dogfight double. It would be massive. Damien, fair enough. I mean, whatever they bring out, it's not going to be to somebody's taste, right? It will appeal, and it's quite difficult, I think, being in a model company trying to decide what to make, because you have to judge, you have to really know the market, right? Otherwise, you're just going by past statistics, and past, just like the markets, past performance isn't an indicator of future performance. Just because a 109 has done well in the past doesn't necessarily mean it will in the future. You get saturation, you get better kits from elsewhere. You know, there's all those things coming in. But it's interesting looking at that mock-up. Exclusive pre-cut masking sheet included, contains masks for all exterior glazing and some paint marking options, e.g. spinner spirals. It's a very, if it's a fake, it's a very good one. They got the wording, like the kind of cadence of Airfix quite well. So who knows? Wandering Celts says, I think it will be a Hawker Tempest. It often had a red or yellow lightning bolt. I mean, that's a possibility, right? Now, they did the Typhoon, of course. That was, I don't think it was the first, but it was one of the first of the 124 scales that they did. The Tempest is a prettier fighter. And Tempest was extremely good fighter, having that laminar flow wing with the big Griffin Vulture engine. Is it Griffin or Vulture? Not sure, but it was a big old engine, and none of the problems. It was like a fixed Typhoon, wasn't it? You know, it didn't have that big chunky wing. It didn't have the problems with the tail ripping off. So yeah. Tempest would be good. Again, does it have that mass appeal? Again, you know, I'm looking, if it's going to be a Hawk aircraft, wouldn't you do the Hurricane first? Don't know. Tempest is a good shout, I think. It's a tornado steam train, helps give Hornby a boost. That would be terrible, wouldn't it, if it turned out to be that? Anyway, Guy Wilson says, thanks for hosting this, Alex. We'll all know after one more sleep. Good night, all. It would be good to pick this up after Telford and get everyone's reaction. Yeah, that's a good shout. So I'll definitely, whatever this is, and presuming they will have some sort of shots of it at Telford, if it's not actually for sale at Telford, in which case I'll pick one up. I'll definitely get good shots of it, and we can talk about it afterwards. And obviously, if I've got the kit, take a good look at it, and then obviously put it on the bench. But that's been really good. I didn't see that post from Reddit before, so thank you for sending that over, Casey. I think it's been interesting. Overwhelmingly, we don't think it's true, so we're still putting our bets behind the hurricane. We will find out in 12 hours' time. So thanks everybody for coming at pretty short notice on this. I think it's been a bit of fun. It's been great to see your interaction and some of your suggestions. Thanks so much for joining me. And yeah, I'll be popping over to Telford tomorrow. Popping over is a fair drive. But I'm going to take it leisurely. I'm closing the shop at lunchtime. I'm going to take a nice relaxed drive up there. A couple of us are meeting up for a curry, and then we're going to be having a curry on the Saturday night with a few more people. So I will try and get as much footage as I can. I'm taking my battery charger with me. I'm taking some spare memory cards, so I'm going to try and fill those up for you guys. And it might take me a little while to stitch some of that together. So you might get a video of the raw kind of stuff, or some of the raw stuff before I get a bit more polished and perhaps more focused ones. I get all the Hampton shots in as well, be sure of that. So other than that, for those of you who are going, if you see me, please do say hello. And if you've got time, come out for a curry. And for those of you who aren't, have a fantastic weekend, whatever you're doing. Stay safe, everyone. And I'll catch you next week, if not before. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Good night now.